Every star on my 600-pound life who died. Henry Foots. Let's start at the very beginning. May 16th, 2013. A day that would go down in reality television history, though not exactly the way anyone expected. Henry Foots became the first My 600-Pound Life participant to pass away. And here's the thing that nobody really wants to talk about at parties. He died of an illness completely unrelated to his weight. Henry was 47 years old when he decided to call Dr. Now. He weighed 715 pounds, and his goal? To lose enough weight to attend his high school reunion. Now, if that isn't the most American motivation we've ever heard, we don't know what is. Forget wanting to live longer or see your grandkids. Henry wanted to remind people who didn't care about him in high school that he existed. And you know what? He actually succeeded. After 2 bariatric surgeries, Henry lost an absolutely staggering 440 pounds. That's literally more than most people weigh. He became one of Dr. Now's success stories. He got down to about 275 pounds, which is basically the size of a regular person who ate too much turkey at Thanksgiving. But here's where it gets interesting. Henry stuck around for 7 years after his episode aired, trying to adjust to his new body. In 2012, he was working as a bus driver, which honestly seems like a commitment to public service we should celebrate, when he got into a traffic accident. Not a big deal, people said. He seemed fine, and then, well, 6 months later, he just wasn't fine anymore. He died in May 2013 from something completely unrelated to the fact that he used to weigh 3/4 of a ton. Robert Buchel. Fast forward 4 years. November 15th, 2017. Robert Buchel, 41 years old, from New Jersey, became the first cast member to actually die while filming his episode. And that's the kind of behind-the-scenes drama that even TLC didn't know how to edit around. Robert weighed 842 pounds when he showed up at Dr. Now's office. That's literally 42 pounds heavier than the weight limit on most residential elevators. He came with his fiancée, Catherine, who had the unbelievable job of watching him lose his mind over food while also trying to plan a wedding. Here's the thing about Robert. He actually started losing weight. He dropped 217 pounds just sitting in a Houston hospital, which is basically the weight of a grown man, made entirely of his own former body. But then, this is where things get really interesting. He had surgery to remove a lymphedema mass on his leg, and that's when his fiancée discovered something about Robert that Robert had apparently never mentioned to anyone, including himself. He was addicted to painkillers. Now, Robert started tearing his surgical stitches deliberately to get more pain medication. Let that sink in for a second. He was so desperate for pills that he was literally destroying the surgical work that was supposed to help him. It's like you finally get the thing you've been waiting for, and then you just unravel it. And you know what? He was holding her hand when his heart stopped. He had a cardiac event during filming, and the episode that aired months later included an epilogue where his fiancée recounted their last night together. So, if you wanted to watch a man's actual last words to his loved ones while eating chips on your couch on a Wednesday night, TLC made that possible. Robert was the first, but he wouldn't be the last. James L.B. Bonner. August 22nd, 2018. 3 months after Robert's death, social media received a notification that hit different. James L.B. Bonner, 30 years old, had been found dead in a ditch in a park in Lexington, South Carolina. L.B. was different, though. If Robert was the tragedy that nobody saw coming, L.B. was the tragedy that blindsided everyone because nobody wanted to see it coming. He was beloved, liked, genuinely beloved. He had fans who followed every update on his social media. He was the guy who seemed to get it, who got the humor, who got the struggle, who got the absurdity of his situation, and refused to take it too seriously. LB lost his right leg in an ATV accident back in 2013, and here's what he did. Instead of spiraling into complete despair, he turned to food and alcohol, because that's totally a normal coping mechanism and definitely not a warning sign that things might not be okay. But you know what? The guy actually did the work. He got up to 650 pounds, and then he just decided he was done. He lost over 400 pounds, got down to around 200 pounds, got sober, became a motivated icon, the guy who proved that if you lose your leg and you hope simultaneously, you can get back through sheer willpower and a really strict diet. Except that's not how the story goes, because depression doesn't care about your Instagram following. It doesn't care that you're an inspiration to thousands of people, and on August 2nd, 2018, depression won. LB was found with a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. His last Facebook post before his death, he thanked everyone for showing him love and support. He said he needed to face his demons, and then he did something final. Lisa Fleming. August 20th, 2018. 2 weeks after LB's death, Lisa Fleming passed away at the age of 50. And if you watched her episode, you know why her story is somehow both the most grotesque and the most sympathetic thing on the network. Lisa weighed over 700 pounds when Dr. Now met her, but that's not what people remember. What people remember is that when she came to the hospital, there were actual maggots living on her skin. Not metaphorically, not as a joke, literally. The gravity of her weight had created folds of skin where moisture and bacteria created an ecosystem that attracted insects. Lisa Fleming had struggled with her weight since childhood. Her parents got divorced, family members died, and what did Lisa do? She ate her feelings. A lot of people eat their feelings, but Lisa ate her feelings to the point where she became completely immobilized, and now we're talking about maggots on network television. But here's the thing. Lisa did the work. She went to the hospital. She let Dr. Now help her. She had the surgeries. She lost over 200 pounds. Her daughter was proud of her. Lisa was actually turning it around. August 20th, 2018. Lisa Fleming died of various illnesses related to her health complications, just 6 months after she'd started her journey towards recovery. Kelly Mason. February 11th, 2019. Kelly Mason passed away in her sleep from a heart attack, 1 day shy of her 42nd birthday. Kelly Mason came on the show weighing 724 pounds. She suffered from high blood pressure, arthritis, thyroid issues, diabetes, and a pulmonary embolism. If there was a symptom of morbid obesity, Kelly had it twice. But Kelly wasn't bitter. She wasn't angry. She showed up to the hospital with this energy of, okay, let's do this. Let's actually fix this. She worked incredibly hard. She lost weight steadily. By month 9 of her journey, she was down to 383 pounds. She was in a hospital gown in Texas, away from her family in North Carolina, but she was still smiling. During her 9-month stint on the show, Kelly told Dr. Now that she felt like she was in a new world. She was about to have a major surgery. She was about to get her life back. Everything was lined up. Everything was ready. And then she died in her sleep. Dr. Now called her father after her death and praised her, which is a really nice thing to say, but it doesn't change the fact that Kelly never got to see the end of her own story. She was 1 day away from her 42nd birthday. She had done everything right, and sometimes that's not enough. Sean Milliken. February 17th, 2019. A week after Kelly Mason died, Sean Milliken became a statistic in a completely different way. He was 29 years old. He weighed 900 pounds when he first came on the show. He was the heaviest person who had ever appeared on My 600-Pound Life, which is a title you don't really want on your resume. Sean's story is about relationships, or more specifically about relationships that completely mess you up. He had a terrible relationship with his father, the kind where his dad would corner him and yell into his face, and Sean's coping mechanism? Food. By the time he was 18, Sean was already 180 pounds over. By the time he was on the show, he was the size of a small car. He moved to Houston with his mother, Renee, who was his support system, his motivation, his entire world. Sean did the work. He had weight loss surgery. He dropped over 400 pounds. He was actually doing it. He was going to survive. And then, in the summer of 2018, his mother went to the hospital because she wasn't feeling well, and she just kept getting worse. And then she died. Sean's mother died from renal failure. And for a 28-year-old who had just lost 400 pounds but had lost his entire reason for living, that was a different kind of weight he couldn't surgically remove. In February 2019, Sean was admitted to the hospital with an infection. He had trouble breathing. They resuscitated him once, and then his heart stopped, and they didn't manage to bring him back. He died at 29 years old, about 6 months after losing his mother. Sean once said that he didn't think he would make it past 30. He was right. He just didn't make it as far as 30. Destinee, LaShaee, Matthew Ventress. February 8th, 2022. 3 years later, another social media notification hit My 600-Pound Life community. Matthew Ventress, who went by the stage name Destinee LaShaee and was the first transgender person to appear on My 600-Pound Life, had died at the age of 30. Destinee weighed 669 pounds when she appeared on season 7 of the show. She had the energy of someone who was really trying, really hard to keep it together while simultaneously falling apart. On the show, Destinee talked extensively about her struggles. Her sister had been murdered a year before she died. Her brother passed away. She was dealing with intense body dysphoria. And instead of getting mental health support, she got the My 600-Pound Life experience, which includes forced shower scenes and minimal emotional support. In her final days, Destinee posted on Facebook, "If I was surrounded by all my tears, I'd be floating in the ocean. And then, to everyone who genuinely love and support me, I love you, and I'm grateful to have touched millions of lives and hearts around the world. Living my life with so much pain for so long, I've come to realize that God makes no mistakes." On February 8, 2022, exactly 1 year after her sister died, Matthew Ventress took his own life. Coliesa McMillian. On September 23, 2020, Coliesa McMillian, 41 years old, died at a hospital in Louisiana. And her story is one of those where you want to give her a prize for effort, even though the prize is just eternal rest. Coliesa weighed 643 pounds when she came on My 600-Pound Life. She had 4 daughters. She was eating to cope with trauma. And she said something on the show that really stuck with people. "I allowed food to waste my life. I've let it take over my body and my life, and I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted of this life. Living like this is not living." Here's the kicker. At 39 years old, before she even appeared on the show, Coliesa had suffered a heart attack, a full-on heart attack. And because she was so heavy, doctors couldn't even perform the surgery to fix her heart. So she just walked around with a broken heart inside of her broken body for the rest of her life. Then her fiancé died in a car accident. And instead of spiraling completely, Coliesa decided to do the show for her daughters because she wanted them to see their mother fight. She showed up. She had the surgery. And then things went completely wrong. She started hemorrhaging. They had to put her in a medically induced coma. She was on a ventilator. She flatlined multiple times. Her niece would later explain that it was brutal. It was intense. It was everything you don't want to see happen to someone. But Coliesa kept fighting. She came off of life support. She recovered. She was going to make it. She was going to tell her daughters that she did this, that she survived, that they were worth it. On September 23, 2020, she died from complications of the surgery and her underlying health issues. She never got to see her daughters graduate. She never got to hug her grandkids. Never got to prove that all that fighting was worth it. Gina Krasley. On August 1, 2021, Gina Krasley, 30 years old, died in her hospital room surrounded by her loving family. Gina came on the show to lose weight and become mobile again. She had mobility issues. She had an eating disorder. She was stuck. But she was determined. She went to the hospital. She had the surgery, and she started losing weight. Slowly but surely, she started seeing results. In April of 2021, from her hospital room, Gina updated her fans that she had been struggling with mobility and a possible infection in her eating disorder. She was fighting on multiple fronts: weight loss, health complications, mental health. It was a lot. 3 months later, in August, she was gone. No official cause of death was listed, just gone. At 30 years old, with presumably a lot of things left unsaid. Ann Perez. November 17, 2021. Ann Perez, 48 years old, was called home by whatever higher power you believe in. Laura was from season 3, and unlike a lot of the people on the show, she was actually a fan favorite who seemed like she might make it. She went to Texas, she worked with Dr. Now, and she lost over 400 pounds. She seemed optimistic. She seemed like she had figured out the secret sauce. She even reconnected with an old friend after the show. They got married. She adopted her friend's daughter. She was building a life, a real, actual life outside of being the fat person on the reality TV. But then she had complications from her surgery. And not just regular complications, they had to remove 4/5 of her stomach. Yes, that's real. 80% of her stomach was gone. She was dealing with that level of physical trauma on top of everything else. November 17, 2021, Laura passed away. Her journey of over 400 pounds of weight loss, of reconnecting with old friends, of building a family, just ended. She had done everything right. She had lost the weight. She had found love. She had hope. And it still wasn't enough. Larry Myers Jr. June 13th, 2023, Larry Myers Jr., known affectionately as Mr. Buttermilk Biscuits, died of a heart attack at his home in Houston, Texas. He was 49. Now, Larry is special because his story isn't entirely tragic. He appeared on the show in 2022, and yes, he struggled with weight. But what Larry did that nobody else really did was embrace the absurdity of the situation with humor. Mr. Buttermilk Biscuits got his nickname because he made a song about buttermilk biscuits that went viral. That's it. That's his claim to fame. Not his weight loss, not his surgery, not his dramatic transformation. His legacy is a song about a carb. But here's the thing. Larry was actually working towards recovery. He had undergone surgery. He lost weight. He was down 100 pounds. He was back on the radio talking about his journey. He was making it. He had hope. And then he was mourning the death of a friend. And on June 13th, 2023, that grief was too much for his heart to handle. He died at his home in Houston. Latonya Pottain. May 17th, 2025, just this year. Latonya Pottain, 40 years old, died at Christus Highland Medical Center in Shreveport, Louisiana. She experienced cardiac arrest while being treated for difficult breathing. Latonya was on season 11 of My 600-Pound Life. She started at 531 pounds. She worked incredibly hard to get down to 505 pounds. But after the show aired, the internet happened. The backlash was intense, the comments were brutal, and Latonya fell into a deep depression. She became fearful of weight loss surgery. She couldn't bring herself to do it. And then everything spiraled. She got into an abusive relationship. Her father was diagnosed with cancer. She moved back home to Louisiana, and everything just got darker. By February 2025, Latonya was bedridden. She created a GoFundMe page asking for money for medical transportation. She wrote, "I am completely bedridden and unable to get to the hospital because EMTs say transporting me would be a fire hazard due to my weight. This has been an incredibly difficult journey and I truly want to fight for my health and my life." 3 months later, she was dead. Congestive heart failure. At 40 years old, she never got to fight anymore. These stories are heavy, but they remind us that everyone is fighting something. Which one stood out to you the most? If you found this video helpful or want more content like this, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and hit that bell so you don't miss the next one. Thanks for watching.